Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast. We've covered quite a lot about our journey to Texas, and we want to dive deeper into that. But we want to talk about our main goals for moving here. Those being getting out of debt and also building new relationships.
So yeah, we're finally at the part of our story where we're trying to get back in our rhythm. And so for us, we actually talked about it a little bit in the last episode where our normal rhythm was every single day we're doing something. I mean, I ended up at the end of being in Alabama, around the end, I was at our church 3 to 4 times a week. And that was doing service, volunteering with the youth. And we also had a men's group. So I was up there like 4 times a week. And that kind of became my normal rhythm. And on top of that, having moms and dads night out where we were actually, as a team, we were both actually speaking into the lives of moms and dads about parenting. And so that was at the pregnancy test center that I was working at. She was also volunteering there and actually partially working there. And so this is with 3 kids at the time. Yeah, because we were pregnant when we came here. So this is with 3 kids at the time. Pretty much every single day is full of activity. Whenever we did have downtime, we watched movies and stuff like that. But getting back in our rhythm was like, it was something that we had to do because everything just kind of felt just out of whack. Nothing felt like it was in order, in line. And so finding our church is actually what kind of helped us get back into that rhythm.
Yeah, and I shared in the last podcast about how coming into this, I really didn't want to even think about the fact that we were transitioning into this new space. I didn't want to fully come into reality what was happening. And the main reason was because we had already built a solid foundation when we were in Alabama, specifically when it came to friendships and some that we had literally just started that we thought would like continue for a while. Whenever you're moving or make any sort of change in your life, that does change the dynamics of your friendships and how they can look and how much they'll grow. So for me, I felt like we were losing a lot of that or most of it once we moved. And I needed to have some sort of community, some connection with other people in order to thrive here in Texas. And that was my prayer to God, Lord, I need connection. I need to find some people like outside of my husband. I love my husband, but he is in it with me. I need somebody who's not in it with me. I need someone who can relate to my challenges that I'm facing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure that we would find that. I honestly did not believe that we could build genuine friendships and relationships here in Texas because we were strangers.
Mm-hmm.
We knew no one and had no connections with anyone at the time when we came. So I think that that was a big challenge for me. And I don't know that I really completely shared everything with him. I think I was holding a lot of it in and then eventually did tell him how I was feeling. But there was really nothing he could do about any of it because he was still, like I said, in it with me. We both are new. He's working all the time. So there's not really much time for him to even build community
Mm-hmm.
outside of his work company. So it took us finding our church
Mm-hmm.
to really have those prayers answered. Both of those with the help with getting out of debt and then also building those genuine connections
Mm-hmm.
that we were looking for.
Yeah, and even without her, obviously, even without her saying something, I'm aware. I'm aware that there is low energy. Like like it's just not as she's not as excited about whatever we're doing. And at the time, I mean, I don't know. The only thing that there was to be excited about was just that we were in a new place and
Mm-hmm.
everything was close.
Yeah.
Like we were in an apartment, and so everything was like 5-10 minutes away versus when
Yeah.
at our house you drive 30 minutes to get to the grocery store that you want to go to.
Yeah.
You got your local Piggly Wiggly in from in two stoplights. And so
Yeah.
it was difficult.
Mhm.
It was difficult coming, and like she said, we had just built some strong relationships that, I mean, look at, even speaking on it today, those relationships are different.
Mhm.
Long distance friendships is even harder than long distance dating relationships. Like,
Yeah.
you can check in, but like they're still doing life, we're still doing life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're building new relationships. And so that was kind of like where we were. We were just trying to figure out, how do we build community? And me, I was like, I feel like we're gonna do it. Basically, for me, I felt like we were going to attract the people that we are. And so, while it hasn't been easy to find all of the right people and build everything that we want, or find the exact perfect person or perfect group of people, a perfect couple, I feel like we have already built a community, and we have some great friends already surrounding us. And yeah, so finding our church.
Yeah. So again, building community, but finding a church home was one of the first things that we wanted to do. Raekwon already had a church lined up for us to visit as soon as we hit the ground running. So we got there, and then that following Sunday, he and I were at church.
Hmm.
So that was super important for us. And we went there, didn't really, we liked the service, but didn't really connect. We didn't have that confirmation that this is where we're supposed to be. So we're
Hmm.
like, okay, we're going to look and see and find somewhere else. So we ended up going online because, again, we know no one to talk to and ask about like churches that were around the area. We weren't really married to where we were because we knew we would probably be moving at some point. So we
Hmm.
were like, okay, let's just look around the city, around the surrounding cities, and find something. And a few of the big things that we were looking for when it came to church homes was a place where we can feel like family. I think that was super important for us. Also, we wanted to trust leadership. We
Hmm.
wanted to be able to see a good example of godly leadership between the pastor, the worship leaders, and all
Hmm.
of that.
Hmm.
Of course, we want some good worship because I love worship.
Yeah,
That's my soft spot. So
I
if
would.
the worship wasn't good,
I was
then
gonna say, I'll jump in there because like that was one of the qualifications. One of the qualifications was that the worship team had to be somewhere Destiny felt like she could serve.
yeah.
That she felt like she could be a part of that team and that community.
Hmm.
And so that was like one of the criteria,
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah. So we were looking online and looking at the churches. We went to their websites. We watched a few clips of the message, the worship, to just see what it could feel like at
Hmm.
that particular ministry.
Hmm.
And we found one that we were like, okay, we want to visit this one. Actually, we found a couple, I want to say,
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
were like, okay, we're going to visit these. And we ended
Hmm.
up choosing Life Fellowship Church to visit first.
Hmm.
So we went.
Hold on. Where's Life Fellowship Church?
Life Fellowship Church in McKinney. That is where we decided to look and visit first,
Hmm.
and got there immediately. I think we felt really, really good coming in the door.
Hmm.
People greeted us, we felt welcomed, and then we got in and experienced the worship. We saw like clips. We didn't want to watch, full video because we're like, we want to experience it. So experiencing it, we were locked in. We were
Hmm.
pretty much like, okay, yeah, love this. This is amazing. Then we heard Pastor Chris preach and we're like, okay, I can get with this. This is wonderful. And then they told us about a class called Growth Track. And in that class is where basically a new members class. You find out about the foundation of the church, the vision of the church, all the behind the scenes, all the different things that you can get involved in, and all of that. So we go to this class and we hear about everything that Pastor Chris and Tatum went through in the beginning stages of them acquiring this church and building it up, and how it's grown so much within the last 7 years, and the impact that they or that we all have made on the community and everything that was going on. And I was pretty much sold on at that moment. I don't think I said anything to Raekwon.
No.
We didn't ever confirm to each other that we felt like this might be the place, but we knew, like, okay, yeah, there's something different about this church. And we pretty much like, okay, we're coming back the next Sunday.
Right. And so for us, we were committed to a slow process, because picking a church for us was picking a long-term relationship with it, like with that body. And so like this was something that we wanted to take our time with. We wanted to visit a couple of times, pray about it, and that did not happen as planned.
So I think that's another reason why I was like not really saying anything, because I'm like, that it's kind of quick.
Like this was the first visit. We went to the growth track class not to join, but to find out more about the church. We wanted to see if this was something that we could get with, because my belief, and I think I got this from one of our last pastors, is that the vision that we have, like the vision that we have for our life, the things that in our life has to align with that vision. And so does this make sense? Does the purpose of the church, does the direction of the church make sense for the purpose that we have on our life and the vision that we have for our life and for our family? And when we watched, they actually had, they made a video of, like Bessie was saying, they made a video of the vision of what the leadership looked like. And we were like, whoa, like literally the things that we were talking about that we had learned help create a healthy church. This church was checking off all of the boxes. And so I'll touch on a little bit about the leadership. It showed who was accountable to who. So head pastor showed who he was accountable to. The worship pastor showed who they were accountable to. The volunteers, it showed who they were accountable to. And that was something that we absolutely loved, because we just felt like that is what helps a church stay healthy and continue to grow and continue to expand. And we believe that there was order, and that was it. That's what we were looking for. We were looking for a place that had order. Obviously no church is perfect. And so that was just something that we were looking for.
And like he said, just the transparency from the leadership team, that's something that you need as leaders. It's so important that you can be accountable and have that transparency with the people you're leading. So that was super important. And then we loved that it was a plus that there was diversity in leadership. We saw an African-American leader. We saw a woman in leadership. So we wanted to see all of that. And then one of the bigger pieces was the fact that they were so big on community and so many life groups. When I say lots of life groups, so many life groups and options. And then they also had equip groups, which were different than life groups because they were larger groups. And also they were specifically focused on something that was like a pretty big topic. So we were excited. And long story short, all of those things really helped us to lock in and know, okay, this is where we believe that God is calling us to be. And so
I will share something here, and then we can kind of transition a little bit more to the relationship side of it. And so through my studying personal development and all these different things, and even, experience as well, I believe that there are 3 kinds of relationships that every person should have in their life. I think that you should have leadership. And so somebody that's pouring into you, somebody that's mentoring you, somebody that's giving you direction, whether that's in person or online. And so I know for me, when we first got married, I had like five best friends, and they were all people that I never met. Eric Thomas, Les Brown, Tony Robbins. And so these motivational speakers, inspirational speakers that I allowed to speak into my life, and it helped transform my mindset and gave me a not a positive perspective, but a prosperous perspective. Mm-hmm. And it allowed me to see that there was so much more that I could achieve, so much more that I could accomplish if I stay focused, if I stay disciplined, and if I really grind through a lot of times the hard times. And so there's leadership, but then there are people that's on the same level as you. So these are your friendships and things like that. So that's something that we were building, and we joined a life group that was a young married couples where it was ages 30 to 18. And so that's right where we needed to be. A whole bunch of women or wives are pregnant, you know, and babies are just happening. And so it was like that is what we were able to join into. And also people that you pour into. And so if you are a parent, then you have your kids that you are able to pour into. But even if you're not, we are actually co-leading the group now. And it's just an opportunity for us to pour what we have into other married couples. But even if, like, what it looks like to pour into someone is not necessarily that you have a platform or anything like that. This is basically positioning yourself where you do have an expertise or you do have experience, and you're sharing that so that someone else either doesn't have to experience the things that you experience to get the knowledge and wisdom that you have, or where you are literally your expertise and you're just pouring back. And so you could be a volunteer, whether that's at a church or just somewhere that you feel called to serve, and you get to just serve and pour back into the people that may need your help. But ultimately, I think that there are three relationships that you should have, and that's leadership, that's friendships, then there are those that are mentees or people that you are pouring into. And I think that this helps you stay active, this helps you stay learning, but also gives you that satisfaction of actually serving and being able to pour back into others.
Yeah, and we have established pretty much all three of those since coming to Texas, and it's such a blessing. And the thing that I mentioned to Raekwon is that there's provision within transition. God will always make sure that He provides what you need. Those things that we needed, we wanted to get out of debt and we wanted to build relationships. And God answered that prayer a lot sooner than we thought it was going to happen. And in a way that we didn't think it was going to happen through here, because prior we had relationships in church with other couples and things like that, but we weren't really expecting to get planted in that way. In Texas, we thought that it might happen from just being out or something like that. At least I did. I thought it would happen from being out, not necessarily like from church. But from finding our church, the Lord provided everything we need within the place that we needed to be in. And so if you are feeling like you're not sure, like there's some sort of thing that's holding you back from really embracing change and moving on and being able to transition well, know that God is going to provide whatever you need, whatever you're asking for, He'll provide it for you. And it just may come in the most unexpected way. So just be willing to accept that and allow God to do it in the way that He wants to do it.
That's basically kind of the transition to our church now. And so Destiny is obviously on the worship team and she's serving there. And a little bit about where we are now. I actually just served for the first time since we've moved here. And it's been a little bit over a year since we joined the church.
Yeah.
But I just served for the first time this past Sunday. And it's something that she had been wanted, but I felt like I didn't have the energy for, because my job, a lot of times we're working 6 days a week, but I feel like it's necessary, not just for the sake of doing something or just being together, but it gives me a different perspective. It gives me a different motivation to go and to serve at our church. Like it it just makes it even more home. And also, I've already connected with a couple of the guys on the team, on the AV team, because that's just where I tend to land.
Yeah,
Just because I guess creating content and cameras and audio and all that stuff, I actually
you're good at it.
I'm good at it,
You're
and
great.
I kind of starting to like it more and more. And so, that itself has made a huge difference for us.
Yeah.
But me serving alongside her, I think we both believe that this is going to change the dynamic of the relationships that of other people that are volunteering.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it was at our last churches
Yeah.
that we were a part of.
Yeah, I think we truly want to be an example, but not in any forceful way. I believe that just us being who we are, we do represent something. We represent family and unity. We represent people who are committed to God, who are committed to their church family. And so we want people to experience us, the fullness of us.
Mhm.
And so for me, him serving, us serving together brings that picture. And so, yeah, it was definitely different not serving with him. But yeah, just much more effective, I feel. I mean, I feel like already it's changed things just having you there last Sunday. And yeah, it's definitely going to change the dynamic for sure.
And it's very interesting because we have 4 kids.
We do,
And
yes.
at our McKinney campus, we have our church has 2 campuses. That one that recently launched. So with 4 kids, and at McKinney we have 3 services. So getting our kids up early, that's going to be interesting. Which it's not unique. We've done it before. Yeah. So like when we commit, and that's really how come it took me so long, because when we commit, we go all in.
Yeah.
At every one of the last churches that we had joined, and were made our church home, the following week we were both like on, like it volunteering, serving, like we were there
on schedule.
Yeah, like as soon as we joined, we were like, where can we get plugged in? Where can we get plugged in?
Yeah.
It does, like, okay, so we could talk about this here. It changes, it absolutely changes what church looks like when you start volunteering. I promise you it do, because the church that we had, the church that we were going to before we left Alabama, for a couple of weeks, we visited. We went in after our service, we left, and that felt weird.
Yes. Yeah, that was like, I was like, yeah, we're just going home. Like, that's it.
And it wasn't that the service wasn't good. It's just that we were so used to being the ones serving. And it was probably healthy for us to take a break and just go home after a service. But it just didn't feel the same. Once we got connected and started volunteering, it felt so much different. It felt better. It felt like home. And so I think that may be a part of our personality, that we just feel this desire to serve, and serving gives us so much purpose, especially when it comes to our home church.
Yeah, and also that community part is coming back into play too, because when we joined this church, neither of us like jumped in to serve either. Like, I mean, I talked about joining the worship team, but I didn't do that immediately. I did, take a little bit of time, and we just were getting poured into. And I think the reason that we didn't feel so much like we needed to just jump right in was because we did have the life groups, and we were building community with other couples and families. So it's just good to have community. If you feel like it's not time for you to jump in and serve yet, just find community within that church, because you need to be connected with someone to be able to build on that. And a lot of times we can get in, we just become, a seat filler, come and leave. And that's not the purpose of church. The purpose is for us to join together and be together as a body of Christ and learn from each other, equip each other. And so it's just important that we find and connect with people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and if your church does have life groups, or that's what we call them, or small groups,
Mm-hmm.
that it's important to join there as well. I believe that I believe small groups are
Mm-hmm.
so important,
Yeah.
because it puts you in communities where you are literally doing life together.
Yeah.
You're literally getting to know these people that are actually going to your church,
Yeah.
because without the life group, for us, it is Sunday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You see people in passing, but you don't get to know anybody. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get to go deep with anybody. You don't get to know how to pray for the people that are, right there sitting next to you, because there's no community there, and it's just a little bit harder. It's
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's possible to get to know people just going Sunday to Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
but when you join a life group, when you start volunteering, you create space for a vulnerability. You create
Yeah.
space for trust and to actually build and grow.
Right.
And so, even on that note, I want to transition a little bit on the outside of the church, kind of what that was looking like. We
Mm-hmm.
were at the beginning, we were still living with my parents. Obviously, this is only 2 weeks into
Mm-hmm.
us, or into since the family had actually transitioned
Yeah.
to Texas. I had been here one extra week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're still living with my parents, and the drive to the church is 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
At that time,
At that
it's
time,
about 45 minutes.
and that's because we were too broke to pay for the tolls. We weren't trying to pay for no tolls, so we
Right.
just took the back roads.
Yeah.
It was so confusing for, like, we new to Texas, and so
Right.
I'm confused why I'm driving right beside the freeway the whole time.
Yeah.
I was like
It didn't make sense to me.
why my GPS not saying get old? But it was because we said avoid the tolls, and
Yeah.
that was a toll.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. We're able to take the tolls now. Thank you, Lord. We save a lot of time.
Yes.
But we're also in McKinney now.
Sure.
And so it wasn't just finding just another church to go to. We were really looking for a church that we could call home, that we could build relationships, but that we could volunteer, that we felt comfortable having our kids going to the kids' church, and building community.
Yeah.
And so when we found it, we were willing to drive that 45 minutes. And then my parents, they ended up buying a house that was an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, it was an hour and a half.
Hour and a half away from the church.
And that was on a Sunday with no traffic.
So and we were still committed to going, because we felt like this is where we're supposed to be. And so we're going to commit to it.
Yeah.
And that's where we found our space. So our home is in McKinney, on the outside of McKinney. And it was because we found where we felt like our community was. And even the city itself, it just felt good.
Yeah.
And so
it felt like home. And so this is kind of where we've been starting to build friendships and relationships with our fellow sisters and brothers in Christ who are in the same season of life as we are. That's something that was different coming here. When we moved, we had friendships with people who were older than us. We didn't have any friends that were our age in the same season of life. If they were our age, they didn't have kids, or they weren't married, or something like that. But in this group, everyone's married and everyone has kids. Most of everyone has multiple kids. So we didn't feel like, the odd people out with, all the kids. And we never felt odd or anything like that.
Right.
We were very confident and very proud of our family and what we've built. Don't get that mistaken. But it just felt like we had people we could actually relate to. So it was good. And we can kind of talk about how the meaning of friendship has changed from us coming from Alabama to now. If you want to kind of start off.
Sure. Yeah, I can start that. So the meaning of friendship has evolved even over the past couple of weeks. But moving from Alabama to Texas, I think that we see how difficult friendships can be, and how some friendships are seasonal. Our desire is, I think for the most part, our desire is always to create lifelong friends.
Yeah.
But you just don't know what happens in life.
Mm-hmm.
People move, life situations change. And so for me, my biggest thing is to find purpose in whatever friendship relationship that there is,
Mm-hmm.
and to do what we're talking about. Even if you're on the same level and your friendships, a lot of times it's still a pouring in and
Yeah.
receiving wisdom, because the other person, the other couple, a lot of times they have experience in something that you just don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so the meaning of friendship now and at this moment is something that I had talked to Destiny about. That's really, I would say, is kind of like an older man's
Perspective.
perspective on friendship. And I was watching. So, long story short, I was watching a short on YouTube or something like that, and he was talking about this team that was built. It's like the top leadership team, and what the qualifications were for being in this team and how people felt about it. And so, on one scale, it was skill, and on the other scale, it was trust. And long story short, uh, the men with the most trust outpaced or was a higher level than the men with the most skill. And basically, how he framed it was, the person with the most trust that had lower skill, this is somebody that you can trust with your wife, is what he said. And that got me thinking about the friendships that I want to build. If anything was to happen to me, I would love to be or have been surrounded by men that were so ingrained. Our friendship was so ingrained that if anything happened to me, I know that my wife and kids would be looked after, in the sense of a brotherhood that had surrounded me, that would help her through anything that she would face. And so that's like the shift in my perspective of friendships. Obviously, that's not an overnight thing,
Mm-hmm.
but that's something that I'm committed to. And it's weird because I feel like it's different in our time and in our generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just I desire friendships with other guys, but at the same time, that level of friendship, that level of trust, to
Mm-hmm.
like, I just feel like that's something that I haven't seen much of. But even that perspective, I feel like I haven't seen much of. But that is what I
Yeah.
desire. I desire to build a community that's the level of trust that I have, specifically with the men in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, honestly, I've not heard anyone else with that perspective. I know there are probably a few people, but it's definitely a unique perspective, and I think we both are looking for long term, but we understand at this point in our life that that's not going to be with every person that we
mhm.
meet. Like the people we desire to have friendships with, it may not be the same. Their outlook may be different. They may not be looking for the same things that we're looking for. They're in a different, season of life potentially that could cause them to not be able to connect the way that we want to. So me personally, I'm learning not to take offense to certain things. I'm trying to learn to reach out. If I feel like we're not communicating, try to reach out myself and not wait for, dust to settle or allow time to kind of get in the way. So we've learned a lot, even in the last few months, on like how to approach friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some friendships that we thought would last forever that have not, and they look completely different now. Um, but I think that we are okay with that. We are completely settled in who we are, and we know that the people who are destined to be in our lives for a long time, the Lord is going to bring those people. He's going to reveal that to us, and it's not going to be something that we necessarily have to toil for. It's something that's going to happen organically. Of course, there's still that nurturing that takes place, and that whenever that does happen, I think both parties will know like
Mm-hmm.
how to move and what to do to create that bond and also to sustain the friendship. But we definitely believe that God is just going to bring those people into our lives when we're ready and when
Right.
they're ready.
Right.
So really excited. about that in the future, and learning to be content with what we have now, even if it's not those lifelong friendships. Connecting with people, it's just fine just now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's something that we love to do. We love hosting. We love inviting friends over, and people over, just to get to know them, just to, I guess, expose them to kind of how we are, or what it looks like to have good people. And that's what it like, in no prideful way. It's just we want to be an example in any way that we possibly can. And having people over and us going to people's home, we feel like that's just an opportunity to expose people to our prosperous life, you know, and our prosperous thinking. Obviously, we're not perfect, but we just desire to show love, to show care, to show genuineness.
Genuineness. We are really genuine people, and like you said, we don't say that in a proper way. We say it because we want people to know, like, that's what you get when you come with us. Like, that's what you get. We genuinely love people, and love serving others. So yeah.
And so we'll bring this podcast to a close. The next thing that we want to talk about is us getting out of debt, and how we changed our spending habits, and how that's come with challenges, or that came with challenges, because I don't feel like it's not very hard.
We've really adjusted well to it.
We've adjusted well.
Yeah.
We've adjusted well. And we're not completely out of debt. Got some student loans and stuff that's, hanging around
as well.
But for the most part, we've adjusted, and we want to share with you guys, our transition, but also share some principles that we've learned along the way that's helped us with getting out of debt, and also staying out of debt, and still having the life that we want and the lifestyle, but what we believe is a prosperous way of living, and a prosperous way of spending.
So yeah, we're excited. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and watch our other videos too. I think you'll be blessed by them. But I hope you have a wonderful day and continue to be beyond prosperous.